Okay, here we go. Our favorite day of the week. It's Wednesday. And you know what
Mm.
happens on Wednesday? Wednesday is the day we make it a podcast. So, so excited to be back here again with the hydroweight champion of the world, Harley Smith. I'm the organic mechanic with Kelp4less.com. And boy, we have a pretty fun topic today. We can talk about a word that's being thrown around recently. It's kind of a new buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. And it's not a new thing. It's an old thing that's
Hmm.
often overlooked, but I think as people are trying to create different marketing channels and different ways to promote products, this keyword comes into play. And this specific thing we're going to talk about today, I actually tried to register a product label that shows the amount of this in the product, and they wouldn't allow it. The government officials wouldn't allow it because it's not in the biostimulant book yet. It's not in the nutrient book yet. It's not in the soil amendment book yet. So I kind of completely forgot about it as far as using it as a marketing term or an additional biostimulant. And the funny thing about it is we've probably all been using this. We've probably all been using this since the late 70s. Those of you in the growing community. But the buzzword of the week right now is alginic acid. And alginic acid, boy, that sounds good. Is it an algae? Is it really an acid? Alginic acid? What is that? How is that? Where does it come from? What is it good for? Chances are we've all been using it for a long time. Fellow farmers, gardeners, and so on and so forth. So, Harley, when were you first introduced to the term alginic acid as a biostimulant?
Okay, well, I was introduced to the term alginic acid a long time ago, early on, when I was working with kelp products, seaweed extracts. And they're one of the key components is, of course, you know, and you're going to talk about too, of kelp extracts is alginic acid. And more specifically, I guess if you really want to look at the active form, it's alginate oligosaccharides. So it is the bio part of the biostimulant ingredient of kelp extracts. It wasn't it's and we know what they do because we've known about those for a long, like you said, 70s and before. But it's a key component, and it is, in my opinion, it's one of the key biostimulant ingredients, components in kelp, especially for stress tolerance, for the, as we know, the study showed about the increase of the superoxide dismutase and the peroxidase, plant protection agents. But it also, more recently, they're talking about how it is involved in sugar transport from the
Mm.
leaves to the fruit. So, but even, well, in the old days, we'll call it my early days, they mentioned alginic acid. They talked about the benefits of kelp extracts, but they weren't able to put the two together yet. They hadn't discovered how that worked in that time. So, yeah, when I first started working with biostimulants, started working with kelp extracts in particular, that's where I was introduced to the term. And I go ahead and I'm going to show my book. If this isn't in your, I know that it's
There
in
you go.
your
Yeah.
library. It's called Seaweed and Plant Growth. And this was published in 1986 by Dr. Sen. And Dr. Sen, at that point, I mean, he got his PhD in 1954. He was doing studies in horticulture for 50 years before this book was even written, talking about kelp. And he mentions there's all, a lot of this is all the science. He's just from Clemson University, but even today we don't understand how all of these things work in kelp, even though kelp has been used in agriculture for thousands of years with benefits. But anyway, well, I will say this: one of the chapters in this book from 1986 is They condemn what they don't understand.
Hmm.
And you understand now how even
Mhm.
with the modern scientific community, when you try to mention some of the components of kelp, they wouldn't allow you to put it on the label because they didn't understand it. They go, "Oh, that must be snake oil," but it's not. It's, I mean, if you look at the Pythagoreans, the followers of Pythagoras, thousands of years ago, they do you know how they define truth?
No, tell us.
That which works.
Oh,
So it works. They knew it worked thousands of years. As time went on, the science improved. We started to understand a little bit of why it works and how it works, and we're still not there yet. We still have so much more to discover. But that's where I was first introduced. And I'd recommend you have this book on your shelf in your library, even though it's old. All things old are new.
that's right. No, that's a good way to put that, especially what's happening today. Because, yeah, it's just been interesting. We've been getting a lot of questions about that
Hmm.
lately and recently. And yeah, I mean, I think we might have talked about this before, touched it on a previous podcast or something like that. But looks like it's going to be one of those new biostimulants you can buy on the shelf.
Hmm.
Alginic acid. Um, show the derivative of probably ascophyllum nodosum and things like that. So I just want to let those that are asking about it and people that are hearing that and a lot of the blogs or a lot of the communities or whatever. If you've been using a liquid seaweed, a soluble kelp, things like that, chances are you've been getting alginic acid every time you use that. And again, it's the small amounts that make a difference with biostimulants. And it's not a
Hmm.
silver bullet. It's not going to cure everything, not going to do anything. It's a great
Right.
addition to a full nutrient program. And speaking of that book that you have, I remember in the uh, probably late 70s,
Hmm.
uh, in our agriculture community, there's a group that they call it the black seaweed. And this seaweed was the most potent of all the seaweeds. And they had the radionics box and they're testing the energy on it and everything. This
Uh,
energy's way up here and this energy's way down here. And, all the reasons to use it. And it was very expensive. But turns out, side by side tests, um, I'm not going to say all kelp products are equal, but if you have a good product that's ascophyllum nodosum derivative, you're going to be getting these stimulants, the biostimulants from it. It doesn't all have to do with one brand or one, one product. Just if you have some kelp, use it into your system. Chances are you're going to reap the benefits. If you get it from kelp4less.com, that's great. If you have it from somebody else, that's great. Just make sure to work that into your nutrient program, and it just helps everything work better.
hmm
And your book will explain why.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. One things that we've talked about in the past, we talked about stress tolerance, heat stress, salt stress, UV stress, drought stress, and that
Hmm.
effect on the plant. When the plant's under stress, as we know, they, free radicals are generated. Even if we're pushing our plants and they're really thriving, free radicals are generated, and the plant has a natural way of protecting itself. So, one of the things that it does, and we've talked about, is the production of superoxide dismutase. It breaks down the superoxide free radical into hydrogen peroxide, which is still, and then another enzyme called peroxidase or catalase breaks down the hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. So it works very quickly and protects the cell membranes and the chloroplasts. So the plants are able to continue to do photosynthesis and make sugars. So, so we knew about that, and we knew that kelp, especially when combined with humic acid, um, helped the plant make 50% more of superoxide dismutase. The alginic acid, it's not just the superoxide dismutase, it's also the peroxidase. I mean, so it starts a chain reaction of positive effects on the plant. Um, but the alginate, even in the studies done by Virginia Tech, they were able to measure the amount of superoxide dismutase. They knew that it was improved by 50% in the tissue, but they didn't know what it was in the kelp that did that. And the more recent studies are helping to define the part of that active ingredient that stimulates the uh, the genes or the enzymes that are produced is the alginic acid. So,
And then
yeah,
again, the 5-2 blend, you can touch on the 5-2 blend in that same subject that you're talking about as well, with combining the two in those proportions. I don't know if that's the particular study you were referring to, but I know we've talked about that quite a bit, the 5-2 blend.
well, that was part of the Virginia Tech study. That was a 10-year study on biostimulants,
Wow.
right? And then they were able to literally document, measure, and improve, scientifically at least, that there were benefits in plant protection from that. Now, one of the things I think is pretty cool is that there's another aspect to this in kelp beyond just the alginic acid. I mean, you take one ingredient. That's like what they do in medicine. They find the active ingredient and purify it, synthesize it. But there's other things that work synergistically with it. It's not just that ingredient alone. For example, in kelp, there is also mannitol.
That's right.
Mannitol, that's a sugar alcohol, and it's a chelator. And it helps make certain elements, especially trace elements like iron, copper, manganese, and zinc, as well as boron, um, much more available. So it will literally unlock some of those trace elements from the soil. When I was looking at Dr. Sen, some of the things they showed was they used the kelp as a foliar and it increased the uptake of manganese. I mean, what? I mean, there's more uptake of manganese than there is manganese in here. So it's really literally improving the availability. Now, superoxide dismutase, that enzyme that breaks the free radical, it has to be turned on, has to be activated into an active state. And that's either an iron manganese cofactor or an iron manganese cofactor or a copper zinc cofactor. So if you're stimulating the plant to make more of that enzyme, and you can stimulate the plant to have more available manganese or zinc or copper, it's going to turn that enzyme on. And just one molecule of superoxide dismutase can do over 1,000 chemical reactions per second inside the cell if it's turned on. So again, you start getting into the kelp. It has the trace elements in it as well to do that. The humic and fulvic acid also is loaded with beneficial trace elements, including iron, copper, manganese, zinc. So you put the combination, you're stimulating the plant to make the enzyme, and you're activating the enzyme that the plant produces. So we, Dr. Sun knew about that, whatever it is, 40 years ago now? It was
Yeah,
1980,
and
30,
we
40
touch
years
on this
ago.
topic a lot. We touch on this topic quite a bit when we have these discussions. So it's always good to go back and kind of review some of this information because it's all related. And bringing
Right.
up the mannitol, that's probably going to be another thing that shows up on a label or is going to be a buzzword or things like that. Is it, you know, understand it more, people hear it more and things like that. So again, I was going to turn into a buzzword, and for you that have been using seaweed or kelp for quite a while, you have been getting these ingredients. So
Right.
uh, just want to make everybody aware that keep doing what you're doing. It's good stuff. And I don't know how come it seems like almost every podcast we touch on the value of kelp or the addition of kelp and things like that in the nutrient program because, well, just because of what you said, uh, it helps,
Yeah. I mean,
makes a difference.
yeah, that which works, it works. It does.
That's right.
There's been trials on all kinds of different plants, and it has a positive effect on all of them. If, always if, you use the right amounts, you don't overdo it. If you overdo it, you can actually have negative results or even the opposite results. So small
Mhm.
amounts of it really make the difference. Um, and so you have to look at those. So, oh, I want better results. I'm going to add more kelp. Well, not necessarily. More isn't always better.
Exactly. Yeah. A little bit all the time, just a touch, just
Mhm.
an eighth of a teaspoon of seaweed in combination with your nutrient programs per gallon. If you can do that often, it constantly keeps those biostimulants going through the system with every nutrient dose and every growth stage and stuff. Don't overdo it. That's good news.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we may see products come out that have alginic acid and mannitol on the label and not say anything about seaweed or potassium or trace or anything at all. It might be that. So this was a good lesson. I hope some people learn a lot from this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe in our one of our future classes or not webinars, podcasts, maybe we should talk a little bit more about chelation too, because the mannitol itself is a sugar chelator, and it helps make those elements more available to the plant. Helps release them. It also helps to the plant absorb them better and take them up
That's
better.
right.
I think that would be a good topic to talk about because we get into chelation when we're looking at humic and fulvic acid. Those are intermediate chelators. When we're looking at amino acid, those are intermediate chelators.
Mhm.
Mannitol is an is a chelator. So it might be nice just to talk about chelation in the future because that's another key to
Right.
biostimulants, the
Right.
availability of the trace elements.
Yeah, and with mannitol being a natural sugar alcohol, okay, kids, don't drink it because it's not that, but I think it is classified as an alcohol, a sugar alcohol.
The sugar, it won't get you drunk though.
No, yeah, boys and girls, don't drink it. It's
Especially,
not going to
yeah,
do
there's no alcohol in there. Won't do it. It's not going to do that for you.
it. Well, moving on, we have to answer the question, Harley's question of the day, and you're going to like this one. And boy, you have a lot of fans out there. You've,
Mm.
I'm surprised you're not being stalked because you should you should hear some of these questions. So listen to this. This is really technical, and this viewer wants to stump you. And so
Well,
let's stump Harley Smith. So here comes the question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Will you please ask Harley Smith what is his favorite food?
My
That's the
favorite,
question.
my
That's the
favorite
question.
food.
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, I have to. I'm not going to go into like a whole meal type food recipe, but really one of my favorite foods, my favorite snack even, is cheese. I love cheese. I love a really good sharp cheddar cheese, especially. And yeah, so that's it. I mean, I'll eat cheese every single day. I try not to eat
Okay.
too much because of the saturated fat, but it's not bad. It's got low carbohydrates. It's got good protein. I like it because it's a fermented product too. It's kind of good for you in some ways that are hard to define for your microbes, the
Okay.
lactobacillus and so forth. So that's it.
Okay.
I was introduced by a friend of mine when I was still a teenager into Canadian Black Diamond. And it's one of the best cheddar cheeses in the world,
Do you
and
still get it?
it got me hooked on it. And but from there are a lot of different flavors that are almost as good as Black
Can
Diamond.
you still get that?
I haven't seen it on the market for a while. I've had to find some other other blends. But lately, since I've been on a diet for try to get my blood sugar under control, which I have, thankfully. Um, I'm always kind of looking for. I can't eat potato chips. I'm not eating Doritos and junk food, but I found some cheese wisps that are just grated cheese that have been, I don't know, probably freeze dried a little bit and maybe baked, and they have the nice crunch and flavor to them. And half a bag, a little bag of that, is just 1 gram of carbohydrates. So I use that as a whenever I want something crunchy. I'll eat some of that, and I'll eat some nuts every day. And I like to eat blueberries or other berries almost every day. So favorite
Well,
snack
there
food.
you go. There you go. Here, I'll just say the SW. You heard it from Charlie. He's a cheesehead. Who would have ever thought? See,
Definitely
we
a
learn
cheese.
something new about Harley every day. But I'm right with you on the dairy. As a matter of fact, when I was in Michigan, yeah, when I was around your area in Detroit, um, I told the gentleman that was driving us around because I'm a big milk connoisseur. I mean, I love fresh, raw milk. Like
Mm,
most people like fine wine, I'm a
mm,
connoisseur of milk. And so I told the driver, I'm like, take me to the best place I can get some raw milk in Michigan. And I believe we went to some, must have been like an Amish store or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, they had the raw milk in the glass bottles, and I bought a bottle of that and just drank it while we drove around.
mhm.
So I don't recommend others doing that because I consume too much. It's not healthy, but that'd be one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah. It's not as bad as what they used. Remember, I don't know. You go through all these different food fads, and they say, "Oh, eggs are bad for you," right? But then later on, well, actually, eggs are good for you. Oh, butter is bad for you. Later on, well, butter is actually good for you. So I guess again, it's moderation. It's everything in
That's right.
moderation.
That's right. Just keep doing what you're doing because, yeah, you're looking great. I mean, you look healthy. You're doing great. So, whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Okay. Well, I
Okay.
think we're running out of time for today. I guess they didn't stump us on that one.
No, we'll see what the next one is. Stump Harley. Any question at all. If it's suitable, we'll ask him.
Okay. And say hello to all my fans out there and your fans. You have a lot of them too. And you'll keep coming back. We'll see you next week on a new topic.
Okay. Thanks, Harley. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye.